optimum state is reading the right books. And you got to think about what stage you're in your life right now. Okay, or you're in a stage right now where you need to develop leadership. Okay, if you're wanting to develop your leadership, then you should be reading leadership books, right? If you're in a stage right now in your life where you need to be, a lot more disciplined, you need to be reading books on discipline. If you're in a stage in your life where you want to get better at business, you want to get better at sales, then you should be reading books that have to do with the area in your life that you want to get better in this specific time in your life. This is so important. Don't just read any random book because you heard that it's good, okay? Which I'm sure a book is a book. Reading is great. But if you want to be intentional about your reading, focus on what area in your life right now you need to work on and read books on that so that you can start to strengthen those areas and grow confident in those areas. So, reading is key. And then journaling is important for me. As you guys know, I'm huge into journaling. Now, there's multiple different ways to journal, guys. I should actually do a podcast on how to journal and the different ways to journal. But, sometimes I just write about, what I'm grateful for, how I'm feeling at the moment. I like to do something called scripting. Scripting is basically when you write a journal entry in the perspective that it is already done. Okay. So it's writing from the end in mind. So, for example, if your goal is to make an extra $10,000 a month, let's say, as an example, writing it from the perspective that you're already earning it. Like you're already living in the moment of, I'm already earning the 10K a month. And what does it feel like? For example, today I woke up and I feel so blessed and grateful that I am earning $10,000 a month. All my bills are paid, all my rent is paid. It feels amazing to earn over $2,500 a week. I'm taking care of my family. I'm investing into great, you know, different investments and startups. My team is growing this, that. Like you can start writing it from the perspective that it's already done and talk about what you're doing with your money. Okay. Talk about the things that you've always wanted to do. Now you're traveling. Now you're sitting first class. All your debt is paid off. Like you can sit down and create that reality and write it down in the perspective that it's already done. So that's one of my favorite things to do. I script at least 1 or 2 times a week. But I also do other things like forgiveness letters, forgiving myself for the things that I'm not doing, or congratulations letters, congratulating myself, speeches that I'm going to give on stages. So it's all different things, but I love to journal every day, even if it's just for some gratitude and to write my goals down. And then last but not least, I love to listen to audios. I listen to majority of my audios and my podcasts while I'm working out. While I'm on a run, while I'm on the treadmill, whatever it is, I'm always listening. But it's not just listening in the morning, listening throughout the day. If you go in your car, turn your car into a podcast studio. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have your headphones on, you're in the train, you're going somewhere, whatever it is, you're in the bus, put your podcast in your ears, right? Let's stop the listening to the music, right? Not that music is bad, because music is actually one of the ways to raise your vibration if you listen to one of your favorite songs. But I think if we can start to spend less time listening to music and more time listening to information that can change our lives, especially at the beginning of our journey, I think it could be very, very valuable to your health. It can be very valuable to your mindset. And it could be very valuable to everybody around you. So listening to podcasts and audios are key. And if you want to add any extras in there, spending some time in the sun for sun gazing, sunbathing, you want to add breath work in there. I know how important breath work is. I know people are huge on cold plunges as well, cold showers. Those are also really cool. Grounding, taking off your shoes and putting your feet in the grass. Those are also very great ways to add. Those are little extras that you can add. But guys, these are all things that I do. Now think about that. Think about person A and person B. Person A wakes up, they grab their phone, they get distracted with Instagram, and then they go about their day and they start to build their business. Person B wakes up, they do prayer, they do gratitude, they read their go kart out loud. They go in the gym, they do their Bible study, they're in the sauna, they read, they journal, they do all these things, they ground themselves, they do breath work. And I know that it may sound like a lot, but in reality, guys, you can do all of that within a 2 to 3 hour span. And I know it sounds like a lot, but if you're up early and you spend 2 to 3 hours working on yourself, that's a massive game changer. And if you can't do the 2 to 3 hours, guess what? You can start how I did it. I started with 10, 10, 10, 30 minutes a day, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of journaling. because that's all I had. But now I have a lot more time because I have a lot more freedom. I spend more time working on myself. So that's how you get yourself to an optimum state. Like I said, I just gave you guys mine so you guys can kind of have an idea. Pick and choose what works for you, okay? And then go from there. But get yourself in an optimum state first because remember, like I said at the beginning of this, you got to get yourself in personal momentum before you can have team and business momentum. So number one, get yourself in an optimum state of mind. Number two, find your passion. Okay, find your passion. And what do you mean by find your passion? What are you gonna love to do in this specific season in your life? Okay, what's gonna be the thing that you're gonna wake up and it's not gonna be a burden to go and do it? What's gonna be that skill that you're gonna focus on? What's gonna be, the thing that you wake up and do every single day with love and passion, not a burden, not with hate. If you got to wake up and you hate to make the phone calls, you hate to post on social media, you're really you feel like it's a burden to go and do those things and you're not really doing something you love, right? What's going to be that specific skill set that you're going to focus on, you know, to become better in it, right? For me, one of the things that I focused on over the years was sales. Okay, how can I be better at sales? And I fell in love with the idea of sales, how to handle objections, okay, how to create FOMO for my people. All right. There's so many different things that come when it comes to sales that I could focus on, right? I love network marketing as well. I focused on mastering the skills of becoming a successful network marketer. Okay. For network marketing, you got to learn the skills of invitation, of edification, how to present, how to promote, how to close deals, okay, how to launch your business. So I focused on those skills. I really fell in love with those skills, right? There was times in my life where I focused on crypto, trading, e-commerce, all these different skill sets. But for that specific season, I was in love with what I was doing. Okay. So for you, what's going to be your focus? What's going to be your passion during this season of your life? Okay, what are you going to really, really focus on so that you can get better at that specific thing? Because the more you focus on something, the more it grows, right? They say that what you focus on grows. But also remember this: focus everywhere leads to focus nowhere. This is why you got to find your passion. What are you going to dedicate time, energy, and money to over this next season in your life? And what I would recommend is focusing on one thing. FOCUS, focus. The acronym for it is follow one course until successful. Trust me, guys, I've had many seasons in my life where I focused on just one thing. I focused on sales. I focused on trading. I focused on network marketing. I focused on crypto. I focused on one thing. Okay. Right now, my focus this summer is season 4 of this podcast. Okay. I'm focused on it. I'm focused on expanding the brand. I'm focused on taking this to the next level now. We're going to lead from here into coaching and one-on-ones and retreats and all these things that are going to come from this focus that is right now in this season that I'm in my life. So what's your passion? I love to do this, right? I love to wake up and record a podcast. I love to read the books. I love to coach people. I love this. It can't be a burden. Remember, don't let your blessings turn into burdens. Sometimes we let that happen. We let our blessing turn into burdens because imagine if I would have woke up today and I would have been like, man, I got to record a podcast today. That sucks. Got to sit here and record podcasts hour after hour. I just turned my blessing into my burden. Okay, you don't want to do that. I woke up today, I was excited to record. I can't wait to do this topic on momentum. I can't wait to do this topic on all the other topics that I'm going to be doing for season 4.
All right, guys. Let's get started with today's call. There we are. Grand Rising, and happy Thursday. So excited to be back with all of you guys. I pray everybody is having a phenomenal start to their day. Real quick, in one word, how is everybody feeling today? Let me know in the chat box. How is everyone feeling today? Real quick, let me just grab a napkin and clean this. Feels like it looks a little bit blurry. I just want to make sure it's not just me. me just give it a little boom. Oh, okay. That looks so much better. That looks a lot more clear. So I was right. Okay. Let me just make sure. So let's go. So everybody's feeling grateful, feeling phenomenal, feeling extremely grateful and delighted, blessed and curious, grounded, grateful, unbelievably amazing. I love that. Grand Rising, my brother. How you feeling, G? Love to see you, Santos. Feeling like a new beginnings are on the way. They definitely are. I love to see that. Blessed, elated, productive, grateful, empowered, free. Miss you much. Same, bro. I'm gonna be in New York in like 2 weeks. Let's link. I'm gonna be in New York, so we definitely gotta link. 100%. No excuses, bro. Okay. Here we go. So thank you, fam. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Another great call. Always good to be back. Always excited to pour in. It's amazing because I wake up every day and obviously we do our morning routines, we work on ourselves, we do what's required, and then we think about it and it's like, man, I get a chance to pour into people every single day, hundreds of people. And it really is amazing when you actually think about it, because I sit here sometimes and I'm like, wow, like hundreds of people jump on these calls every single day, and they wait for me to pour in and teach different topics and different inspirations. And for myself being the teacher, I'm always thinking about what you guys need and how I can help you guys and what kind of topics I can use and what books I can teach from and everything else. So, today we're going to be talking about a very specific story. And obviously, as you guys know, I've been loving to teach from the Bible. And usually I do anywhere from 1 to 2 topics a week from the Bible, whether it's a verse, whether it's a story, or whether it's just a specific scripture that touched me or that I feel like we need. And today is one of those days. Today I'm going to be teaching from the Bible. Obviously, I teach from the Bible with respect to what everybody believes in. So I want you guys to focus on the lesson here today, because today I'm going to be talking about the story of Joseph. All right, the story of Joseph. And there's a very powerful story that there is in the Bible that's called From the Pit to the Palace. All right, from the pit to the palace, which is also known as the process before the promise. And I want to be able to teach you guys such a powerful story. Now, because the story's kind of long in the Bible and because of the way it was worded, I had ChatGPT do a transcript for me of the story, so it can be written in a way that we can all understand it. So that's what I'm going to be teaching here today. I'm going to be teaching from the story of Joseph. And I want to make sure that you guys learn here today. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell you guys the story of Joseph. And then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to give you guys the 4 major lessons that come from that story that we can all apply and that we can all relate with. Because Joseph, if you hear the topic here today, the title, From the pit is the bottom, to the palace, to living in the big house, the mansions, and so on and so forth. But there's a process, and there's a process before the promise that needs to happen. And I feel like a lot of us can relate with that, because a lot of us come from the bottom. A lot of us come from the pits. A lot of us are in situations right now where you may be considering where you are right now, a pit or the bottom or whatever it is. So I want to make sure that I put you guys in a position to just understand these stories, because they say that facts tell, but stories sell. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of the stories that I've told on Mornings with Nano, they stick with me, right? Like, who remembers the story of the dog sitting on the nail, right? Who remembers the story of the axe, right? The guy cutting down the tree, the story of the guy pushing the boulder, right? These are all stories that we remember, right? Like, we love those stories because of what they do to us. Like, they're great stories, obviously, but at the end of the day, we're able to remember them because we relate with the stories, and they have an impact on us. So I love to teach in stories. That's something that I love to do. I think that teaching in stories is such a valuable thing, because you're able to remember them a lot more. Like, there's so many stories that I have off the top of my head that I can just teach from. Like, if you were to put me on stage in front of 10,000 people and they're like, all right, Nano, run a training, dude, I could sit down and run a training because I could just pick a story off the top of my head. I could run a whole training on the dog sitting on the nail. I could do a whole training on, the guy pushing the boulder. I could do trainings on all of these amazing things. The story of the talents in the Bible is a good one, and all of that stuff. So I want to make sure that, I teach in stories because the stories are always super key. So the way this training is going to go today is, like I said, I'm going to read you guys the transcript of the story of Joseph, which is titled From the Pit to the Palace. Now, a lot of you guys may relate with this, right? Does anybody relate with it, with the topic already? Put a 2 in the chat if you already relate with this, because I'm going to put a 2 in the chat, because let me tell you guys something. I come from the pit. All right. I come from the pit. Now, I wouldn't consider where I'm at right now the pit, but I'm in the process of getting to the palace. So I know what it's like to be in the pit. I know what that's like, but I also understand the process. So I wouldn't say I'm in the pit now, but I'm in the process of getting to the palace, which is still just as much working towards it. So I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of us are going to be able to relate with it. And then I got 4 major lessons that come from this story. So let's get right into this transcript. So from the pit to the palace. So I just want you guys to listen right now. So here it goes. So it all started with a dream. It says Joseph was 17 when he saw something most people never see, a glimpse of who he was destined to become. In the dream, he stood tall while others bowed around him. It wasn't arrogance, it was assignment, but not everyone could understand the vision. In fact, the people closest to him, his own brothers, hated him for it. Jealousy turned into rage. And one day, out in the fields, they stripped him of his robe, the one his father gave him, and they threw him into a pit. No water, no help, no explanation. They sold him into slavery. And just like that, Joseph's life flipped from a favored son to a forgotten servant. But what they didn't realize was that you can't steal a coat. Here's what it says, right? But what they didn't realize was that you can steal a coat, but you can't steal a calling. Now, let me pause right there because the story continues, but let me make sure everybody's understanding. So Joseph has a dream while he's sleeping, and he was only 17 at the time. And during this dream, he was having a dream that he was, standing tall while others bowed around him, right? Basically hailing him king almost in a way. And he had this dream. He started to tell people about it. And the people around him, like his own brothers, hated him for it. And they were jealous of him. And one day while they were out in the field, they stripped him of his robe and they threw him into a pit. Now think about this. This is kind of crazy. They throw him into this pit with no water, no help, no explanation. Just a couple days ago, he had just told them about a dream he had, and they end up selling him to slavery. And his life flipped because he was a favored son, but now they have basically made him a forgotten servant. All right. And that's what he's saying here. It says you can steal the coat, you can take the robe off of the person, but you can't steal a calling. So here it goes. So it continues and it says Joseph ended up in Egypt, working in the house of a man named Potiphar. And even there, in a foreign land as a slave, he excelled. Why? Because God was with him. And because Joseph showed up with excellence, even in a place he didn't choose. But just as he started rising, here comes another test. Potiphar's wife lied on him, said he tried to violate her. And Joseph, though innocent, was thrown in prison, another pit. Now think about this. He took a situation that was difficult for him. He became a slave. He ended up going to Egypt and he became a slave in a house of this guy named Potiphar. Is Potiphar. So I think if pronouncing it right, is Potiphar. And even though he was on foreign land, he was a slave because he showed up with excellence. God was with him the whole time. But just as he started to rise up, and just think about this, Now, remember, guys, these stories are figurative, but they're also literal as well. Think about it. Even though he was on his rise again, another test came. Now, can anybody relate with Joseph in this specific example? Put a 3 in the chat. That as you start to rise, another test came. Another test came to test your faith, to test your patience, right? These things happen to me. I can put a 3 in the chat as well, right? Because think about it. He got tested when he had the dream. His own friends and family basically disowned him, let him go, sold him to slavery. Then he goes to this situation. He makes the best of the situation when he gets sold to slavery. And now the person's wife, it lied on him, tries to violate him, and says that he basically tried to touch her, whatever it is. And even though he was innocent, he was thrown in prison, another pit. Now, here it is. You ever feel like every time you start making progress, life throws another curveball? That's what happens right there. I know I feel that before. I felt that before. That every time we start making somewhat of some progress, here comes a test, here comes a challenge, here comes another obstacle. But here, the story continues. He says, but again, Joseph didn't complain. He didn't quit. He kept using his gifts, even behind bars. He interpreted dreams, served others, and stayed ready. And then one day, Pharaoh, the most powerful man in Egypt, had a dream no one could explain. Someone remembered the Hebrew boy in the prison with the gift of interpretation. And just like that, in one day, Joseph went from the prison to the palace. The Pharaoh gave him authority over all of Egypt, second in command. And years later, the same brothers who betrayed him stood before him, not even recognizing him. There it was, the dream coming full circle. But instead of revenge, Joseph responded with grace. It says, quote, he says, in quote, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good to save many lives. He forgave them. He embraced them. He wept because Joseph knew every pit, every prison, every delay was divine. And that's the story. Now, what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is you might be in the pit right now. You might be in a place you didn't plan, but your story isn't over. Like Joseph, if you stay faithful in obscurity, if you keep showing up when no one is watching, if you keep growing, forgiving, and believing, your palace moment is coming. Quote says, the dream is real, the delay is just development. Now, if you think about it, this story is extremely powerful. If you actually think about it, because we can see ourselves in Joseph in many ways. Think about it. All of us, we all have dreams of becoming successful, of earning more money, of putting our families in position, of traveling more, right? We all have dreams. And think about it. Some of our friends and some of our families, the people around us, are the ones that shoot those dreams down. They don't believe in our dreams. They speak down on our dreams. Put a 4 in the chat if you've ever had a friend or a family basically talk down on the dreams that you've had. I tell you guys stories about when I was on my come up, still living in, Washington Heights. I used to tell people about dreams of living in mansions and traveling the world and speaking on stages. And I used to have people tell me the truth is this, Nano, be more realistic. You're from the hood, bro. Those things are not going to happen for you. Like, I've had people said those things to me, guys, like legit. I remember I was sitting in McDonald's one time. Listen to the story. I was sitting in McDonald's one time, and I lived across the street from a McDonald's. So usually when people wanted to know more about my business in the beginning, I would have people meet me in the McDonald's across the street because there was Wi-Fi and I could run my presentations right from there. So every time I had a business meeting, I would have literally people meet me across the street from my house at McDonald's, which is not the most professional now that I think about it. But at the time, Starbucks was too small. The Starbucks by my house was too small. So I was like, you know what? McDonald's it is. I didn't really care. So I took one of my people there, and one of my guys that I had grew up in the same neighborhood with. He wanted to know more about my business, how he can start trading, how he could start making money online. So long story short, we're talking, we're chopping it up. I show him the presentation. And towards the end of the presentation, I'm telling him like, yo, I'm going to use this business to one day, retire my mom and dad. I'm going to buy them a house in the Dominican Republic. I'm going to live in a mansion somewhere. I'm going to travel the world. Like, I'm just here sharing my vision with him, right? Like, I'm telling him how I'm going to use my business to help me accomplish my dreams of helping my family, living in mansions one day and traveling the world and investing in all of these things. And he's looking at me with a curious look, and he's looking at me and he's just listening to everything I'm saying. And once I'm done, he looks at me and he says, Neno, you got to be more realistic, bro. And I look at him with a confused look, and I pause, and I'm like, what do you mean, bro? Like, be more realistic. He's like, bro, look at where we are. Like, we're sitting in the McDonald's, dog. Like, we live in the hood, bro. Like, these dreams sound cool and stuff, but be more realistic, bro. Like, those things are not going to happen for you. And I sat there in almost in awe, because this is somebody that I grew up with. This is somebody that I would have thought that his response would be like, yo, let's get it. Let's join the business. How can I help make it happen? And here this person is telling me, yo, be realistic. It's not going to happen for you. Look at where we're from. Like, those things don't happen for people like us. And at that moment, I was completely like, I was speechless almost. I was like, it's crazy that you think that, but I pray one day that I prove you wrong. Just follow me on Instagram. One day I'll prove you wrong. And at that point, I didn't even want him to join the business. I didn't even go in for the close. I didn't even go in for the close, to be honest. I just like, yo, thank you for coming, my brother. I appreciate you, man. And I pray nothing but the best for you. But I used it as fuel. But why do I say that to you guys? Because just like Joseph, he had a dream that, one day he was going to be a king. One day he was going to be the guy. And guess what? A lot of people hated him for it. And just like that, I've also had very similar experiences as well. I've had very similar experiences where I told people my dreams, nobody believed in me. And believe it or not, it came from the people closest to me. Friends, family, brothers, sisters. It came from the people closest to me always. Okay? And when you're called to do something, nobody could ever steal that from you. Because when I was having that meeting in McDonald's, I was broke. I didn't have no money. I was still living with my parents. So I can understand from one perspective why he would think that, because he's like, yo, come on, Neno. You over here telling me about this dream of living in the palace when, bro, we're in the pit right now. Like, he couldn't see it. I could see it. You see, that's the thing. A lot of the times, it's not your job to get people to believe in your vision. Your vision is given to you, not to them. So sometimes we tell our visions to people that don't even have one. Has he reached out since? Nah. I don't even know. I don't even know what his Instagram is, to be real. I know his name, but he had like one of those Instagrams where he wasn't using his name kind of thing. He wasn't very he wasn't very popular. I don't know, but I'm sure he's following me, because I made sure he followed me. So I'm sure he sees the life at least now. And if you think about the story, boom, he has the dream. His brothers kind of sell him out. They get jealous of him. They sell him to slavery. Then he goes to the other place. He's working for this guy. And then the wife lies on his name. They send him to prison. And then he's in prison. And think about it. Joseph is in prison. And while he's in prison, he doesn't give up. He's still doing what he needs to do. And he becomes a dream interpreter in prison. Think about how crazy that is. Because he kept using his gifts. He never complained. He never quit. He kept using his gifts even behind bars. He interpreted dreams and served others. And then one day, the most powerful man in Egypt had a dream no one could explain. And then someone remembered that Hebrew boy in the prison with the gift of interpretation. And in one day, Joseph went from the prison to the palace. Think about that. Now, obviously, this is a story in the Bible, but think about that could be us. It could be one phone call. It could be that one investment. It could be that one thing that could change your life. That one book, that one breakthrough, that one moment, that one business opportunity that could be the one that takes you from the pit to the palace. And guess what? He goes from the prison to the palace, and the Pharaoh gave him authority over all of Egypt. He was second in command. Second in command. So he went from being a slave to being imprisoned to then being second in command in all of Egypt, right next to the Pharaoh, which is the most powerful man in all of Egypt. And in those times, that is a huge, huge authority. And then think about that. Years later, the same brothers who betrayed him and stood before him, he forgave them, gave them grace. We was talking about this yesterday, forgiving people, giving people grace. The dream came full circle. The dream he had came full circle. So let's talk about the 4 major points that I want you guys to understand from Joseph's story, right? Lesson number 1 from Joseph's story that I got is that the dream will make you different. The dream will make you different. All of us that are on this call, we have over 100 plus people on this call. If you have a dream to become more than you are right now, you are already different than everybody around you. Because guess what? Most people are not dreaming. Most people are just living. I'm going to repeat that again. Most people, all right, are not dreaming. Most people are just living. If you're dreaming to one day be more than you are today, to travel the world, to become a millionaire, to be able to give back to charities, to build successful businesses, to have a successful investment portfolio, if you're dreaming of these things, you are already different. You are already different. Remember, I was different because I was dreaming more than the people I grew up around. I grew up around individuals in my life that, you got to think about it, guys. Where I'm from in Washington Heights, New York City, there's drugs sold on every corner. It's low income families. There's more fast food and alcohol places and liquor stores than there is anything else. It's low vibrational, extremely. Very, very low vibrational. I live in a place in my apartment where I lived, where at night on a Friday or Saturday night, if you woke up in the morning, you would find needles from people injecting themselves on the staircase on the way down. Where at night, when I would turn on the light in my kitchen, boom, turn on the light in the kitchen, cockroaches and rats would scatter. Okay? Like in the hood, where drugs sold on every corner, liquor stores on every corner, gang banging on every corner. I had a dream though. Okay? I had a dream. So when I tell you guys that I come from the pit, I understand that. Facts, just like I know a lot of you guys can relate. I know I live in New York, Washington Heights, but I'm sure there's areas in Chicago that come from similar places. I'm sure there's a lot of places all over the world that are very similar. In California, in Chicago, big cities, everywhere. So when I share that with you guys, I need you guys to understand that just like Joseph had a dream and he was able to go from the pit to the palace, we all have a dream as well. All of us. And your dream makes you different. The dream makes us different. It did make me different. People looked at me different. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people hated on me for having a dream. A lot of people hated on me. A lot of people talked down on me. A lot of people never supported my dream. This is why they say that your friends and family, they don't support you until strangers celebrate you. That is so real. My friends and family didn't support me when I started. You know who supported me? You guys. Strangers that I don't even know. There's people on this call that I've never met. There's people on this call right now. You guys support me just by you being on this call today, even though we don't know each other. You guys support me more than my own friends and family, because there's not one friend or one family of mine on this call right now. Think about that. Just think about that. There's not one friend or one family of mine on this call right now. But you guys who are strangers, who don't know me from a hole in the wall, you guys support me. It's part of the game. Your friends and family won't support you. When you dream, you are different. You got to remember that. All right? Y'all are my new families. Think about that. You guys have become my family. And I share that with you guys because I want you guys to understand that y'all not alone if you ever feel like you're in this alone, because that's the name of the game. Oh, look, my brother G Hundo's here. That's my day one. You see, I got one person in here with me. I didn't even know you was on here with me. But look, that's one person. That's one person. And that's how it is. That's part of the game. And I could tell you, my brother G, he'll tell you too, where we from, people don't support the dream. Some, you'll maybe get a small percentage of people that do, but most won't, because they weren't meant for them. Understand that. And look, let me tell you guys something. If your vision doesn't make people uncomfortable, it's probably not big enough. Remember that. If your vision doesn't make people uncomfortable, it's probably not big enough. Don't shrink your dreams to fit their comfort. Don't shrink your dream to fit people's comfort. Dream big, because remember, dreaming is free, but the hustle is sold separately. For you to dream, it costs nothing. For you to dream, it costs absolutely nothing. But the hustle is going to be sold separately. So point number one, the lesson number one that I got from his story was that dreams make you different. Let's go to point number two. Here's the lesson number two that I got from Joseph's story. The pit is a part of the plan. The pit is a part of the plan. So some of us right now, you may be in a pit. You may be in a situation right now on this call where you're like, yo, Nano, I'm in a pit right now, bro. I'm down. I'm not where I want to be at. I'm struggling. I don't know what's the next step in life is. If you're in a pit right now, I want you to understand it's part of the plan. Just the same way that Joseph was thrown in the pit by the very people he trusted. Think about that. In the story, Joseph was thrown in the pit by the people he trusted, his brothers. He was betrayed and abandoned and falsely accused by his own people. But I need you to understand this. Every painful chapter is preparation, not punishment. I'm going to repeat that. I want you guys to write this one down. Every painful chapter is preparation, not punishment. The pit is a part of the plan. If you're down and you're struggling and things are not going your way, that's also fine. Guess what? Let's say you're not in a pit right now. Let's say you're not in a pit right now and you're making progress. And then you got challenged. That's also part of the plan. Because guess what? That's where I'm at. You see, I left the pit and I'm making progress, but then I got challenged. The same way that Joseph was challenged once he left the pit. See how that works? Even though he was thrown in the pit, eventually he started making progress and then again was challenged. So I'm not in a pit anymore, but I'm still being challenged. And I need you to understand this. Every painful chapter is preparation. So even for every single one of us, we have over 120 plus people on this call right now. We all need to remember that everything that's happening in our lives right now is just preparation. This is all preparation for where we're going. All of it. Every single thing that's happening right now is all preparation. We need to change our outlook on it. Remember, everything is perspective. Everything is perspective. If you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. I'm going to repeat that. If you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. Sometimes God buries you to grow you. Sometimes God buries you to grow you. He separates you to elevate you. He isolates you so that you can grow. He removes those people from your lives because they were the ones that were holding you down as anchors. This is all part of the process. I had to understand this throughout my journey. That's why now I take everything with a grain of salt, because I realize that God is really in control and that everything that's happening in my life is happening for me, not to me. So when people get removed, it is what it is. When challenges happen in my life, I embrace them. I love them. I pop the champagne. I celebrate my success and I celebrate my failures, because everything that's happening is happening in my life to make me better. You walk with a different level of peace and a different level of tranquility when you live your life understanding that everything happens for you. And let me tell you guys, I know it's hard to say that. Yo, Nano, it's easy for you to say. But no, I had the same mindset when I was broke, still living at my parents' house. That's what the mindset I have today, I developed it at my parents' house when I was broke, living in the hood with the cockroaches scattering when I turn on the kitchen lights. I know that. I understand that. I believed it then that everything was working out for me. I believed it then that it was all preparation. So you got to understand that the pit is a part of the plan, the same way Joseph understood his part. Because understand this, Joseph ended up in the palace, second in command in all of Egypt. Understand that. He had a dream, just like we all have dreams. But there was a process for him to go from the pit to the palace. We're in that process right now. We're going to the palace. God provides. I want you to type in the chat box, I trust, if you believe that you're going to the palace. I want you to type in the chat, I trust. I trust. You got to believe it. You got to trust. I trust in the Lord. I trust in God that one day I'll be in the palace. Do I know when? No. Do I know the time? Do I know the date? Do I know who's going to be there with me? No, I don't. But I have trust. And that's all I need. That's all you need is trust. Because eventually we'll get there. But right now, guess what? Guess what we are? We are in something called the process. So point number 2 that I wanted to make is that the pit is a part of the plan. Lesson number 3. Listen to this, and this is key. Lesson number 3 is that elevation requires stewardship. Elevation requires stewardship. Now, if you think about Joseph's story, listen to this. Even when he was struggling, let's go back to the story. Even when he was thrown in the pit, right? He was sold to slavery. He was sold to slavery. What did he do? He was still showing up every day as a slave. He showed up with excellence every time. Then guess what? Then the wife lied on him, said that he violated her, and then Joseph was thrown in prison. And then guess what? When he was in another pit, what did he do? He kept using his gifts, even behind bars. He interpreted dreams. He served others. He stayed ready. So even in the process of struggling and going through what he was going through, he still served. He still showed up with excellence. He still did his morning routine. He still helped other people. He still did what was required. That's how it relates with us. Even though you're going through what you're going through, it doesn't mean that you stop serving. It doesn't mean that you stop working on you. This is when it matters the most. That's the biggest mistake people make, is that they start going through tough times and they stop working on themselves. They stop serving others because they say, why would I help others when I need help? This is powerful stuff that I'm sharing with you guys here today. Because even as a slave, Joseph kept serving. Even as a prisoner, Joseph kept serving. He kept showing up with excellence. Are you doing that right now? Even though you may be going through what you're going through, are you still serving? Are you still showing up? Are you still working on you? Are you still doing what's required, even though you're not where you want to be at? Are you serving in the pit? Are you showing up for yourself in the pit? Because I remember waking up every single day when I was in the pit, walking to the park on 173rd Street. They call it J Hood Park, and doing my full morning routine every day from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. every single day, Monday through Sunday. While the rest of the hood was sleeping, I was up meditating, visualizing, seeing my goals, reading the books, listening to the audios, working on myself. I'm telling you. Okay, I'm telling you. The reality of it is, I want to show you this park, actually. I want to show it to you guys, as a matter of fact. Let me see right here. So this was the park I used to walk to. It's called J Hood Park in New York. Let me see. So this is where, let me see if there's a picture of where I used to meditate here. Here it is. I don't know if you guys can see this here. So I used to meditate right here on this rock right here every day, right under this tree. So you see how there's a big green in front of it? This is a huge green. I used to sit there. So for me, this rock right here represented the stage. So I would sit here every day, every morning. This is where my morning routine would start. And I would sit here and I would read. No, I would only meditate here. I'm lying. I would only meditate here. And every day I would meditate and visualize from here. And all of this green in front of me, I would visualize it as people in the stands. So this was the stage for me. And I would always visualize myself speaking on stages. Guys, this was before I ever spoke on a stage in my life. Before I had ever spoken a stage in my life, I used to visualize this as a stage. And to think that today I've spoken on stages all around the world, 25 different countries in front of thousands of plus people. You know how I created that? From this rock right here under this tree right here. And then, so I would meditate there and then I would walk over here. And then right behind it, I would walk to it and then I would read right here. I would read and journal right here. Where is it? I just saw it right here. So right behind it, there was like this there's like this platform that had the view of the bridge, and they had like benches that you could sit down. So I would sit down and I would just read and journal from right here. And this was my view. And then I would walk over, and then right down the block, like on the street, there was a place to work out. Obviously, you know, I can't get too deep into it, but this is where it all was. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, and then look, I would come right here, and then I would work out right here. Everything was right there. They had like this calisthenic facility right there in the park, and then I would go work out there. So I did everything right there in this park. Everything I did it here. Okay, like that's how I did everything. YouTube can't see. Oh, you guys can't see. Wow, that's crazy. This whole time I thought you guys were seeing this. Okay, let me try again. Let me show it to you guys one more time. Okay, can you guys see now? It's black money though. We can't see it. Okay. All right, so look. So here's where I used to, let me show you guys one more time. So, wow, I'm over here showing you guys thinking. So look, where is it? So right here. So this is where I used to meditate right here, this park. At the top of the, there's this, let me just right here. Okay, let me just make sure you guys are seeing this. So you see this rock right here? I used to meditate right here on top of this rock. For me, okay, let me show it to Instagram too as well. So this rock right here represented the stage. So every day I would walk in and I would come meditate under this tree right here. This tree was at the top of the park. Mind you guys, when I used to come to this park, I was broke. I had no money. I was still living at my parents' house. I would come here. I would be here every morning at 6:15 a.m. I would show up here every morning at 6:15 a.m. And this was my stage. I would sit here and I would visualize myself speaking on stage, traveling the world, visualizing everything, the money, all of it, right? So I would do my visualizations there. And then I would walk. So I only did my meditation and visualizations there. And then there was this platform behind me. I don't know if you guys can see it here. This is what the park actually looks like. So then I would walk up here to this part right here, and I would sit on this bench in particular, actually. I sat on that specific bench right here. I don't know if you guys could see that. I sat on that bench right there. And I would sit there and I would do my reading and my visualization. Sorry, my reading and my journaling from there. Boom. And then from there, I would go here. And then I would do my workout in this place. All in this park. I did everything. It would take me 3 hours to do all of it. So I would meditate, I would read, do everything right from right there. And that's when I started dreaming. And it's crazy because today, everything that I once dreamed on that rock, all of it has come true. The places I've traveled to. Look, so true, 11:11. The places I've traveled to, the stages I've spoken in front of, everything. I used to go there every single day. Every single day I would go there. And I would sit there under that tree and I would visualize myself like that rock that I would sit on. It was a flat rock. I would visualize it as a stage, and I would see everything as the world, the stage, the stands, the people. I would see the money. I would see the clothes. I would see my family. I would see my friends. I would see everything. And everything I once saw on that in that park, I live today. Almost every single thing. And here's why I share that with you guys, because I was in the pit during that time. I was serving still during that time. I was doing presentations. I was doing mornings with Nano during that time. Even though I was struggling, even though I had no money in the bank, I would still show up to that park every single day and serve and work on myself. What's the moral of what I'm saying here today? Is that it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. You could be at the bottom right now with no money in your pocket. Wake up and work on you. You could be in a great place right now. Wake up and work on you. Do what's required regardless of what's happening. So that's lesson number 3, is that elevation requires stewardship. And then last but not least, Lesson number 4. We talked about this yesterday. Forgiveness frees your future. Forgiveness frees your future. Hey, you're going to have to forgive those people that spoke down on your name. It's part of the game. I'm going to tell you right now. Because in the story, Joseph told his brothers, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. He had every right to seek revenge. They threw him in a pit. They betrayed him. They spoke down on him. But guess what he did? He chose forgiveness. His emotional maturity unlocked generational blessings for him and his family. He forgave his brothers. Sometimes growth means letting go. You can't carry the weight of purpose and the baggage of bitterness at the same time. Because listen to this, forgiveness isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about freeing the purpose. Don't hold grudges against people, fam. Forgive those, for they don't know any better. Forgive those, for they don't know any better. It's okay. I had to forgive my parents. I had to forgive my friends. I had to forgive a lot of people. They didn't know any better. Live with the heart of forgiveness, because it'll free you. I'm telling you, it will. It'll free you more than you guys could ever imagine. And those are the 4 major lessons that I learned from the story of Joseph, which I believe a lot of us can get a lot of value from. Forgive but never forget. Exactly. Can you explain the baggage? Yeah. The baggage line says, you can't carry the weight of purpose and the baggage of bitterness at the same time. You can't carry the weight of purpose and the baggage of bitterness at the same time, which is basically saying you can't focus on your purpose and hold, grudges and resentment towards people at the same time. You can't. You got to choose. I'd rather carry the weight of purpose and forgive the rest. I don't want to carry both. I want to just carry the weight of purpose, which I think is the most important part. So those are the 4 major lessons I learned from the story. Number 1 is that dreams make you different. Number 2, the pit is a part of the plan. Number 3, elevation requires stewardship. And number 4, forgiveness frees your future. Put a 444 in the chat if you guys got value from today's lesson. Man, we had a lot of people on today's call. I appreciate you guys locking in with me today. Today was definitely a good one. And if you haven't read that story, please read that story. Yes, facts. I'm loving these stories. I love that the Bible teaches in parables and in stories. I love it. I wish I would have jumped into the Bible a lot sooner, to be real. I waited too long to jump into the Bible. It's so powerful the way it teaches. So many powerful lessons and stories, and it's just so powerful. But keep those things in mind. And this is the book of Joseph. Yes, it is. It's never too late to dive in, absolutely. So tap in with it, guys. It really is amazing. And if you learn this, you'll realize that we can see ourselves in a lot of these characters in the Bibles. We can see ourselves. I know a lot of us, we can see ourselves in Joseph. Wherever you are in your journey right now, I see myself in Joseph. I see a lot of what Joseph went through. I could see it. I've experienced similar situations to Joseph. And I know that my palace moment is also coming. It's already here. It's just a matter of time for me to get there. It's just a matter of time for me to reach my palace moment. And I know you guys will too as well. So with that being said, that wraps up today's session. I'm glad we got a chance to, do a fire call today with a fire story that we can all remember, right? Because I could remember this story. I'll never forget this story. That's the good thing. Like, the thing about stories is that once I learn a story that inspires me and that touches me and that I can relate with, I can never forget it. I could run a training on this story for the rest of my life because of how powerful it is. Ben, when am I coming to Chicago? I'm not coming to Chicago for the tour. I'm gonna be in St. Louis. If you want to come to St. Louis, bro, link up with me. We're gonna be doing an event in St. Louis. I know that's only a couple hours away. Let me know. We could link up. But with that being said, guys, if you guys haven't followed me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. Here's my Instagram. Make sure you guys are tapped in with my podcast as well. Podcast is up on Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. You guys could tap in with it. And then with that being said, we'll wrap it up. I'll do a quick prayer for us. I'm going to just practice some gratitude. Thank the Lord for everything today. And we'll go from there. So quick prayer, bow your heads. Let's pray. Father God, we just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to wake up on this beautiful Thursday morning. We all feel so good and we feel so blessed for each and every single situation that's in our lives. We understand that sometimes we may be in the pit, but we know that in the pit is our opportunity to grow. It's opportunity to become better. And we also understand that it's all part of the plan. We know that all the challenges, we know that everything that is happening in our life is happening for us, not to us. So we just want to say on this call, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for putting us in the pit. Thank you for the process. Thank you for challenging us. Thank you for making us better. Thank you for allowing us to show up for ourselves each and every single day. Thank you for teaching us the power of forgiveness. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your love. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for your healing hand over us and the rest of the family. Thank you, thank you, thank you for it all, God. Honestly, we are all so filled with gratitude, and we understand that everything that's happening right now is part of the process, and we trust you. We believe in you, and we have 100% faith that everything that is happening for us and for the greater good, Father. So we're committed to the kingdom. We're committed to you, God. Keep leading the way. We will follow. We love you, and we appreciate you. In God's name we pray. Amen. 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 All right, guys. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the day. God bless you guys. I love that. Bye, brother, man. Like eagles, we fly. Yes, we do. We fly, and I see you guys tomorrow for another episode of Mornings with Nano YouTube edition. Thank you guys for hopping on. Take these stories to heart, teach them, and remember, ACT. ACT. What am I going to apply from what Nano talked about today? What am I going to change from what Nano taught today? And what am I going to teach from what Nano taught today? I challenge you guys to go teach the story of Joseph to somebody today. You should definitely all go teach the story of Joseph to somebody, because there's a lot of people that don't know the story and they need to hear it. All right, guys. So with that being said, let me go walk my dogs. And I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. God bless.